If you saw my most recent post on X about ARKK, the ARK Innovation ETF, you would notice I did a little analysis on the monthly chart. So what I'm going to be doing now is doing the ARK Innovation ETF and the top 10 holdings within that ETF with Tesla, Roku, Coinbase, Roblox, Square, or Block, CRISPR, Robinhood, UiPath, Palantir, and Shop. And one thing we see about her holding for Tesla, it's at 14.6% right now, which is kind of high, right? So if you see on X why she's selling, it's because she needs to get closer to that 10% zone, right? That's the only reason why she sells, to reallocate. Has nothing to do with anything else. People like fear about that kind of stuff all the time, but there's no reason to. She just has to reallocate. But let's dive in. So we're going to start off with the ARK Innovation ETF itself, and then I'm going to do the 10 individual stocks that you see here after that. So let's get started. So on each of these charts, I'm going to be doing the Gann Square, and I'm going to be doing the Ichimoku Cloud on a monthly basis, right? So it's not going to be anything less than a month. I just want to see how things are developing over monthly candles at a time, right? So we can see one thing that I pointed out right here is this development right here for ARK Innovation. Do we see what's going on right there? Well, this monthly candle right here, if we zoom in, we can see it's starting to go above the conversion line, and it already closed last month above the baseline. This orange little baseline right here. When's the last time you saw that? Well, the last time it closed above the baseline was here. But the last time it was above both the blue conversion line and the orange baseline was, in fact, this month right here of March 2021. And that is over 3 years, right? That is well over 3 years. And it looks like it's doing it again now for a continuation up into the 60s and beyond, right? So this is a very, very interesting and, in fact, very bullish development of the direction that the ARK Innovation ETF is going to go, right? Because we see in the past that it just went above the baseline, or it went above the conversion line right there, right? But it never got to the baseline because the baseline was way up here. So we had to have enough time pass by for the baseline to collapse in order for price to find stability. And finally, with this orange angle right here and the confluence of flipping both of the baseline and possibly this conversion line this month to support, then that'll lead to an explosive move higher and higher. So let's dive into the individual stocks. And the first one is Tesla, and I just made a video on X about Tesla, and this one is also looking bullish on the Ichimoku, how it's above the conversion and the baseline now, and it's getting back into the cloud and approaching the top of the cloud right here. So this is a bullish development right now that we can see is pushing the price higher and higher. So this is another reason why ARK Innovation ETF is going higher, because Tesla is their largest holding and it is making some explosive moves with a 24% gain, right? So since I won't go too much detail here because I just made a video on X, so you can see that Tesla video there. And Roku is her second largest holding, and we can see it's not really as bullish, right? When we go back to the beginning here, back in 2017, we can see each level being respected, right? And now it lost this orange level again as support. So when we look at the Ichimoku, the baseline here, the conversion line up here, you can see that it is below both, right? So it's not really that bullish yet. And in fact, it's still even below this angle right here. So this is still looking like it's lagging behind the rest of the market, and it's not ready to break out yet. So it is her second largest holding. So if it can ever get back above these levels, then that'll be good. But it looks like it's going to need a few more months or so to play out for these averages to come down in order for it to finally try to flip them to support to continue higher. But the good news is it looks like a floor has been found here. It is making a higher low from this, and this wick right here, this monthly wick, is a good indication that possibly it's time to push towards the bottom of the baseline into the 70s fairly soon, maybe the next month or so. So let's continue. And the next one we have is Coinbase, the number three holding in the list. And we can see clearly it's building a new base on top of this blue level right now, very, very nicely. And that level sits around 210. So that could be a good buy opportunity if price got back into the 210s or even dropped to the ARK again into the 200s or high 190s. And the conversion line and baseline sit right here. And this is more confluence that it has a lot of strength, right? The cloud is just starting to form here of leading span A, right? So we won't get into that too much, but just based off again and the conversion on baseline, we can see that the bullish momentum is there, which is also helping the ARK Innovation ETF push higher and higher. And number four on the list is Roblox, RBLX. And we can see that price is still below the conversion line, the blue, and the orange baseline. And it just got below this 45-degree angle again, but it's trying to break above it, right? It's really trying to break above it this month. So we'll see if that can happen, but there is some resistance of these two here. But the good news is we can see clearly where resistance is up top here in the 40s, right? Like 44, 45, or whatnot. But we can also see where support has been, right? Since the bottom here, it's been making a series of higher lows. And these higher lows look really good and a positive development that things are ready to move higher. And one good thing is this arc that used to be a resistance right here is looking like it's flipping to support. It did wick below quite a bit right down there, but it got back above just the next month and then closed above right around the 45-degree angle. So if this month can continue and eventually break the baseline and conversion line, then it'll make its way back to the $45 zone in this area for a continuation higher, which would also help push the ARK Innovation ETF up. And next, number five on the list is Block, SQ. And we can see by using the GAN how important each level has been. The blue level has been important. Then the next level here was important. And even almost the top level here was important. But it didn't quite make it there because of this angle right here was rejected, right? So price went down each level at a time, back to the 45 right here, came back up, confirmed it as resistance right here. And what we see now, price went down to retest this blue level. It did go below a little bit, but this bullish engulfing candle of 57% just shot up directly above the monthly conversion line. And ever since then, it never really looked back. So you can see how powerful bullish engulfing candles can be sometimes when they close above levels and then they don't really look back. And now what do we really see when we zoom in? We can see that it's still above the conversion line right there, but it's also battling this baseline. So it's kind of doing what the ARK Innovation ETF is doing, where it's trying to close a monthly candle above this baseline, which would be above both. And once that happens, it'll be enough to send it higher to the ARKs and back above to the next level into the 120s. That is the next level for block, right? And that will happen once this gets flipped to support and then it goes to this arc, gets rejected, flips to support, the bottom, then the top, and so on and so forth. So one level at a time. But this is almost a really bullish looking chart based off of just the Ichimoku right there. The only thing holding it back is the baseline at $66.02 on this monthly chart. So we still have quite a ways left in this month, so anything's possible. But if we get a close above it, then expect a continuation higher into the 70s and possibly 80s in the months to come. And next on the list is CRISPR Therapeutics, CRSP. And this one is following the symmetry pretty well too, with this angle that used to be a support angle. And then it went up to the blue level, to the green, back to the blue, and then back. Finally, it tested the 45-degree angle right here back in October of 2023. That was the ultimate bottom. And then it came back up to the blue, got rejected, and then back down here below, almost to the arc. So this is looking like it's near support. Now, could it come back down and retest the blue arc here, maybe around like 48 or 47? Yes, it could. And that would be an ultimate buying opportunity, in my opinion, for a continuation higher. And look, and when we zoom in, what is happening? Last month, right here in June, it tried to wick above back to the blue arc and the conversion and baseline right here. got rejected, right? It got rejected right there, came back down to where it sits right now. So we know where resistance is, and we know why it hasn't broken out yet, because it can't get above there. It did get above for 2 months in a row, but it could not sustain that because it really lost the support of the arc right there, so it went back down. So it looks like anywhere from current price down to maybe the $48 zone, or even possibly the 45-degree angle down here into the 43, or depending on time, 45 zone right there, right? So it just depends on the time, but it looks like as time goes on and these candles get lower and lower, if they do, then these averages will come down with it, which will make them eventually easier to break above. And once it breaks above the conversion baseline again, then it'll test the upper levels of the ARK and then ultimately get back to the $80 range right up here to test this blue level. So it's still under some resistance, but it's also near a support zone. So I would not be too bearish on this, because the lower it goes, the better the risk reward for a continuation higher. And next we have Robinhood, HOOD. And since the bottom here in June of 2022, we can see the 45-degree angle right here riding up nicely, and it has looked like it's flipped to support. And there's the conversion on baseline, so the Ichimoku looks pretty good. And if this continues, then it's got a clear shot up to the first level here, and that first level sits at around 3150. And it looks like as long as this angle holds, the continuation higher will happen. But we know where support is, and that's probably going to be around where this arc sits, and also these levels here. But will it come back down here? Probably not. And the reason why is because of the Gann symmetry is holding this angle nicely. So probably price will not push down there, and it'll allow enough time for the conversion and baseline to move up along with the price. So this chart looks really bullish, and it's another reason why it's helping the ARK ETF maybe break out in the near future. And next we have UiPath and PATH, and this is number 8. And this is, let's see here, from the bottom here in October of 2022, it shot directly up to the orange level right here, and then it came back down to the 45. But we saw what happened, right? This is the 45-degree angle where it was support, 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 support. It was support the whole time. And then look what happened, right? After it got rejected here, it started losing. It was a combination of events, right? This was the baseline, this was the orange level, and this was the angle. So this was a clear rejection, a clear resistance area because of all three of these confluences. And then after that, it just closed below the arc right here, which had never closed a month above. And ever since then, it just shot below the conversion and the baseline. And then essentially, it lost everything, right? It lost the 45-degree angle as support. It lost the baseline and the conversion line and everything, right? So it sent it down to these angles down below where it's been battling ever since, but it looks like it found a base, right? We see this wick, that long wick down to the very purple angle, and now it's trying to break above this orange angle here for a continuation higher, and it has a lot of room to run to get back to some of this resistance. First level resistance right here is the blue angle around 1430. And then after that, we can see a giant push up towards the baseline, the conversion line, and the 45 here back into the 19s, right? So that is a possibility. So it is the worst chart in the top 10, but it has a lot of room to make up to get back to this major resistance area. So it could move from 12 up to 19 pretty quickly if this blue angle can get broken as resistance. So it's very obvious when you use these indicators here why price broke down, right? If it can't break above resistance, it's going to go to the next support levels, and that's exactly what it did, right? So nothing to worry about. It looks like it has found that base. So we're just looking for a continuation up to the 14s and then eventually the 19s or 20s in the future. And number 9 on the list is Palantir. And Palantir is looking pretty good. I've done a lot of analysis on this recently, and there's the conversion, there's the base, there's the orange level. It's above everything, and it's closing monthly candles back above the orange level too, which means there's probably a clear indication that wants to go higher. and gravitate towards this arc above, which could be in the 30s in the months ahead. So this chart is looking really good, and any kind of back test to the orange level here around $24, 24.50 or so, I think that would be the opportunity to get in case you missed this run up here, because the future does look bright, and this chart is looking like it wants to go to the 30s and possibly even the 40s in the months to come. And number 10 on the list is Shopify, Shop. And we can see the symmetry here, how it's respecting each level pretty good. And here's the blue level. It even came back down to retest the blue level back here in October 2022, which confirmed the bottom. And that bottom should have been bought. And then ever since then, it went up to the conversion line where it finally flipped that to support. It did drop that below like a month or so, but it got right back above. And then what do we see back here in February of 2024? That it met a massive resistance level, right? We'll zoom in here. We had the resistance of this angle. We can see resistance, resistance, resistance. Then the resistance of the bottom of the cloud and the resistance of the baseline right here. So that is a big reason why it didn't break above. But then after that, it finally, the next month, it did break above the baseline, but the arc was getting in the way as a resistance level. And then it broke down just to reconfirm the bottom arc as support here and the baseline as support. So this confluence of events right here was enough to find a bottom. And now we can clearly see it's stuck in a range between the baseline and the conversion line. So it's almost ready, it looks like, to be above both again, like it was here, but it wasn't strong enough because of the resistance of this arc, right? So therefore, it had to go back and retest the level, because now this was a resistance right here, this bottom arc, and now it's flipping it to support, right? So it's only a matter of time before it gets back above the baseline again, and then it'll test the arc again in the 70s. But once that can flip to a support, then it'll be off to the cloud again, possibly into the 90s. But the ultimate target is that green level up above, which you can see how important over time that green level has been right here. All these monthly candles right here, and then this bearish engulfing candle going right through it, right? So that's the ultimate target, eventually $100, but one level at a time. The first level is this conversion line, then the arc, and then the cloud, and then here, right? But we know where support is, and then we know where the future resistance is going to be up here. So this chart is almost looking ready to break out. Not quite yet. Just got to get above these levels, and then it's good to go. So those are the top 10. That's the ARK Innovation ETF. You can see why it's ready to break out. Most of the things in here look like they are good or almost good. There's only a couple in there like UiPath and ROKU that are still below levels, but it's only a matter of time for price to get back to those resistance levels and then sit there for a while until enough time passes before they are ready to break out. So it looks like ARK has a good future. It just needs a little more patience, but the chart is finally looking like it's good after 3 years of bearishness.